Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 3 Reasons to Stop Settling for Old ERP. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce our 2 presenters today. Our first speaker is Dan Griffin, who serves as Director of Product Management and Product Marketing for Exact Software in Dublin, Ohio. As part of the senior leadership team, Dan guides the vision of the Exact Macola product line, oversees product marketing activities, and serves as one of the primary representatives of the Exact Macola brand. Prior to joining Exact in 2013, Dan spent the majority of his career at IBM, serving in both marketing and technical roles. Dan earned his MBA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and despite now living in, quote, up north, still sports a bit of a southern drawl. You have to see if you can hear that.
I don't, really.
Our second speaker is Dave Dozer, Senior Product Manager. He has over a decade of experience in the IT and ERP industry with a background in hardware and networking, accounting and distribution, application development, quality assurance, and leadership experience. Dave has an in-depth knowledge of ERP solutions, CRM, HRM, supply chain management, accounting, and distribution. Experience with SQL Server, database tools, and various reporting tools. He has some experience that he brings to this. So we're looking forward to him speaking. But with that said, I'd just like to pass this along to Dan.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Let's just dive right in here and let's talk about our topics for today. We're really talking about the old way and the new way. And so, it got me thinking as we were talking about this topic about, old cars, new cars. And, the Mustang's been around for over 50 years now. And in the 60s, that red one there is a 65. That was a cool car in 1965, and it still is today. But when you look a little bit deeper and you say, tell me about that car. And if you put the nostalgia aside for a minute and you say, well, it's 101 horsepower. It goes 0 to 60 in 7.6 seconds. It has single speed wipers, right? No fast, no intermittent, single speed. The passenger side seat doesn't adjust. And certainly by 2016 standards, this is not a safe car. Now, 50 years later, the Mustang has changed dramatically. It's still a Mustang, but that old car, that 1965, doesn't really stack up. The Mustang GT has 435 horsepower. It'll basically pin you to your seat, going 0 to 60 in 4.5. Everything is powered. And you've got 8 airbags, all the analog brakes and stability control and all. It even tells you if you're leaving your lane, right? So a whole world different. So what was really radical and a great car in 1965 doesn't stack up in 2016. And that's the way that we feel about software, specifically ERP software. In the 90s, what was really innovative and progressive is no longer advanced software. It's now outdated. So, old ERP lacked flexibility. It certainly didn't have any mobility. Nobody in 1995 was asking, hey, can I get this on my smartphone? Right? You had very heavy on data entry. And it wasn't in what we typically think of in software terms, extensible, right? There was very little, there just was no open API in the 90s, right? It didn't exist. It was very hard to integrate systems. Nowadays, that's very different, of course. ERP software in the 2010s, 2015, 2016, has traditionally been written in new modern languages, like web languages. The focus is now on usability. You're integrating data across multiple functional areas, and it's really built from the ground up to be flexible and extensible, to integrate well with other products. And of course, mobile is key in designing software these days. So just before we get really diving into the deep stuff here, I'd like to take a second to just get some feedback from you guys so we know who we have on the line. And I'm curious, would you consider your current ERP solution old ERP, new ERP, or would your answer to that be what ERP? We don't have any ERP. So Nick's going to put a survey up on the screen here, and let's just take 20 seconds. You guys can vote. Wow, look at that. Very heavily right out of the gate, most people are voting either old ERP or what ERP. We'll give it another 5 seconds here. It looks like it's kind of coming to a close. All right, let's go ahead and end that one, Nick, just for to keep it moving here. So 63% of you said old ERP, 15% of you said what ERP, and only 22% of you said that you were running a system that would be classified as new ERP. And that's kind of what I suspected, is that there's so many companies out there that are running outdated, inefficient, built for really a completely different generation of software. All right, so let's go on to the next screen here. So let's talk about the problems with old ERP. So, old ERP, you had siloed information, and we can think about that in a couple of different ways. Certainly, information was siloed technically, but even between departments, operations, HR, finance, sales, they weren't communicating through the software, right? It was sneakernet. You put on your shoes, you went and talked to somebody in another department, but there was no efficient way to do it. Information was everywhere. You had disconnection between the people that worked in the offices and the people that worked in the shop floor. You had some information in laptops. There was no central repository. And most of all, you had information just in people's heads. The amount of information that could walk out the door at 5 o'clock was tremendous, right? And that's very dangerous for a company to have that much information just stored in people's brains. Another piece is lost tasks. Anytime that you have a lot of things that need to be accomplished, maybe you get 3 out of 5 done, and 6 months later you realize that finance never approved the costs, or that the original drawings were never approved by engineering, right? Because you don't have that set auditable process trail. Those tasks just got lost in the balls. I talk a lot about having a lot of balls juggling at one time, and those balls start to fall. And finally, this idea that, whose responsibility is this? Who's following up? Well, I'm not following up. Who? Me? No, that wasn't me, right? Because there is no accountability for who owns tasks and responsibilities. So when we think about a new ERP system, there's a couple of things that we want to define as new ERP, and that's the title of this webinar is, what differentiates new ERP, and let's talk about those 3 core items that differentiate new ERP. The first is CRM. We actually build in CRM into our system, and that idea that CRM is integrated. CRM, customer relationship management, this idea that you never lose another piece of customer information. It's all in the system, all of your interactions, all of that customer's purchases, every thing that they've interacted with your company. It's in the centralized system. And because it's centralized, then you can access it from multiple devices. So maybe that's desktop PCs, maybe that's laptops, iPads, iPhones, mobile devices. Anywhere that you have a web browser, you have access to your CRM. And because of that, the information is consistent, right? There's not 3 laptops with 3 different versions. Oh, who's got the right version, right? It's centralized, always updated, and you're always looking at the master copy, so to speak. The next one is automated workflows. And this is such a big leap forward, and Dave's going to show us some of this here in a little bit as we talk through it. But automated workflows are this idea that you can bring order to chaos, that you can set up a flow of the process of the way that it's supposed to work and set up triggers, that this person has to approve it, then it goes here. But not only that, but that we can automate it and set up smart criteria, like if it's a request for more than this amount of money, then we're going to have the CFO approve it. If we're out of inventory, then go into this process to order more, before proceeding, something like that. And it really, that automation adds smarts And as we sometimes say, automation is your only 24/7 employee. Right? You do automation and it's always on, always there, never calls in sick, and it always has its eyes on your processes. The third one is personalized workspaces. This idea that you can set up personalized dashboards that aren't just dashboards, though. It gives you the ability to drill into information, to go deeper into the data that you have on your screen. And then if you see something, to be able to take action on it. Maybe you do a right click and take this action or that action without ever leaving your workspace. That's the power of contextual actions. So those are really the three items that we view: the CRM, the process flows, and the workspaces are the three items that we view as central to new ERP. So let's go into the next section here. I want to do just sort of a thought exercise with you about transitioning from an old to a new system. Let's take a look at this drawing, and this will probably look familiar to some of you. You know, if you start to read some of these, I don't know how well you can read these on your screen, but maybe lead request comes in from the website, and maybe an email gets sent to somebody's inbox, but you know, they're supposed to be monitoring that inbox, but they were out for a couple of days, so that email sat there and they didn't notice it. And then maybe they print that out and take it over to someone who has to type that into the sales order system, or you know, there's all kinds of things that have to happen, and you're just trusting that they're all happening, and they're all sort of chaotic and dispersed and unconnected with no real process and no real traceability. So when we come into a system like this, the first thing we want to do is start to build the flow. How should this work? And what happens here is the first thing we want to do is start to build a process. So let's see if the animation works over the webinar. It's a little, it's not quite as smooth as it shows in PowerPoint, but you guys get the idea, right? We take these chaotic pieces, and now we're starting to build something that looks like a flow. But there's still a problem. Even though we now have a flow, we still have the same glitches. We still have the same, you know, hey, if it stays in somebody's mailbox for a while and they didn't check it, then, you know, we have a problem there. Maybe people are still entering data. So the idea here is that we can bring automation into this picture to solve the next problem. So I've got Dave Dozer with me in the room here, who we introduced a minute ago. Dave, why don't you tell us how we could bring some automation into this picture and start to solve some of these other problems?
Thanks a lot, Dan. As we're looking at these sort of chaotic process flows, as Dan mentioned, the first step is to really get those mapped out and understand what the flow is. But then from there, we can really start utilizing new ERP to take business activity monitoring and automated processes to cut out steps. You see right there, we're able to eliminate 4, even 5 steps sometimes through automation. And then even taking existing processes and getting them out of spreadsheets and pieces of paper that are being walked around to different folks, and making those you know, more traceable, and putting responsibility on folks as we go through the process. So you'll see as the boxes disappear there, what we're doing is eliminating those steps, getting rid of those manual pieces and steps that happen in between, creating accountability for people through the process. And then at the end of that, you know, generally anytime there's any sort of business transaction that happens, we're going to have documentation that goes along with that, pieces of paper that go along with that. And traditionally, those have been stored in those big rows of filing cabinets that are out in the back of the warehouse. But now you've got the ability to store those as electronic documents right within the ERP system. And again, then everything's accessible, traceable, and trackable through the process.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that's interesting about this graphic too, one of the things I like about this is that these little icons above the green boxes actually show where we're bringing in all 3 of the pieces that we talked about earlier: the CRM piece, the workspaces piece, the process flows piece. So if you read through, and I know this is small font, but maybe the email, when a lead comes in, maybe that email is not monitored by a person, but it's monitored by an automated tool.
Exactly. So it might take information from that email and initiate a whole process that previously relied on a human being to initiate.
Right. Or it takes that customer that's requesting information, and instead of waiting for an employee to enter in their data into the CRM, that we've got a process that creates a new customer account, for example.
Exactly. And here in a few minutes, we're going to take a real life look at some samples of how those sort of things can work. And be touching a lot on the workspaces, the CRM, and workflow here, and really painting a picture of how those things work and flow in the real world of new ERP.
Yeah, no, I'm anxious to see the demo. So before we turn it over to Dave to do the demo, let's take another quick poll. I think these are always eye-opening, especially given the amount of people we have on the line here, which is quite a bit. Let's take a look at what area you believe would bring the most value to your business. Built-in CRM, workflows, workspaces. Let's see what happens here. Well, this is pretty interesting. When we ran through this earlier, I made a prediction, and I'm wrong. I thought that this was going to be about a three-way tie. I thought surely people will be kind of evenly split on this. It looks like, I think we can probably go ahead and end that. All right. So we'll go ahead and end the poll here. All right. So 24% said that CRM sounds exciting. 13% said workspaces, and 63% said automated workflows were the thing that they thought would bring the most value to their business. That's really interesting. I think that speaks a lot about the types of businesses that are out there and what we could bring to their business. Let's go ahead and go to the demo here. Dave is going to do a demo for us, and I will tell you, this is a live demo that Dave's going to do here. And so sometimes when we do live demos, things don't always go as planned, but Dave thought that this would be very powerful if we could do it live and really show our system off that way. So what we're showing here is Macola version 10. Actually, we're on 10.4 now. And as we turn over to Dave's system, he should be seeing his system. There we go.
All right, perfect. Well, yeah, the poll results were certainly interesting there. The good news is the results weren't dictating what we do show and not show, so we're still going to make sure we cover everything through the course of the demo here. And what we really want to demonstrate is I'm not breaking the demo up into a block of here's workspaces, here's CRM, and here's workflow. Really want to convey through a new ERP system how those things all work together, and ultimately in conjunction with all the other pieces of ERP to make a clear, holistic experience. Because I think that's really the most important part of today's ERP systems is the ability to tie all that information and data together. So what we want to do today is sort of take you on a journey through the life of an inside salesperson and their outside salesperson counterpart. And through that, we're going to see pieces of the workspaces, the CRM, and workflow. So right now, I'm in the system as core ERP, and I am an inside sales guy. So if we kind of go back to that process flow, we're going to go through the steps of someone went out to our website and requested some information, and we want to take them through all the way through the process of becoming a lead to an actual customer to where we get a quote out to them as well. Now, one thing I want to point out as we start here on Corey's workspace, you'll see a lot of sales-related data that is pertinent to him. Now, this is Corey's personalized area, which at first glance you would say, well, that sort of maybe looks like a dashboard. But everything on here is actionable and can be drilled down into. So if I'm looking at Corey's opportunities, I have the ability to drill down into that account and that opportunity and see all the information around that. And I even have the ability on what traditionally are bar chart type of graphs and things like that to create my own configurable menus that allow me to drill down and see the information that makes up that chart. And those are all configurable on a user-by-user basis, so it's not a cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all for everyone. And then as Corey here, I have the ability to add and remove things and organize my workspace as I see fit. So let's say one of Corey's responsibilities is monitoring those follow-up requests that come in from the website. So someone went out to our website, put in a request for information, and we need to follow up on that. So maybe before that was coming into a group monitored email box, but now that's going to come up in an automated workflow request. So as Corey here, I have the ability to add different widgets to my workspace here so I can organize my working environment however I want to. So let's say I'm going to come and add workflow. So I just click the little plus button there, and it's going to give me some different options to be able to specify what I want to see. So maybe just on my workspace here, I only want to see the follow-up requests that come in and don't want to see everything else. So I say, show me the follow-up request, save that. So now that's going to add a little widget to my workspace here. So down at the very bottom, I see that's added that in. So I have the ability to resize that, drag that around, and put that wherever I want to put it. So let's say these are pretty important to me, but my opportunities are still the most important thing. So I've now got my workflow showing me my follow-up request. Now look, there's a request that came in from the website today, so I can drill down into that. And at the same time, using the activity monitoring part of new ERP, we were able to create an account in the system along with the follow-up request as well. So again, instead of that coming in just in an email and then being re-entered maybe into a outside CRM system or even a spreadsheet to track on, we now are able to just pull all that information in, and now Corey immediately knows that he has to take some action on that because it's sitting there in his workflow to need to work on. So here's the information from the web request. So let's see, we're looking to do a custom build for a big event we have coming up, and this gentleman was wishing to speak to someone. So Corey's going to take this information and go ahead and push this along. So there's going to be some basic information that came in just on the account. So I can drill down in here to the Cavalier Bike Shop. So since this one automatically created from a web request, you know, there's not going to be a ton of additional information that we were able to capture at that point. However, if I'm Corey, I'm going to go ahead and hop on the phone here and call David Dozer, which is not speaking in the third person, just made sense there for that to be the contact name on there. But we'll see as we come into the marketing section, I can give him a call, and then I'm going to be able to start gathering more and more information about this customer to understand more before my outside salesperson goes out and talks to him. So you'll see here we're in the marketing section. My source is internet, so we're able to set that automatically because it came in through that outside website. But then right now, maybe I don't know what sector this customer's in. Maybe we have some classifications and ratings that we want to apply to a customer, and we can maybe identify their size as well if they're willing to share that information. So we can start collecting this CRM type of information, and that's really going to help us understand more about this account as they flow through the system, and we start gathering more and more information about them. Now, let's say I maybe want to track this opportunity that we have with this. So I made a phone call. I called Dave there. He said they're very excited about doing this big bicycle rollout for their store. So I'm going to create an opportunity here. And what this is going to do is this is going to automatically link that opportunity up to that account. So we're not double entering data, anything like that. It's just all being passed through. So put in some basic information about this. And this is going to allow me then to track this opportunity as we move through the system. Again, creating data as we flow through, and accountability as well. So anyone can pop in at any time and see what's going on with this. So we'll enter some data in here. We're actually going to make the owner of this my outside counterpart, Mr. Jack McBean here, and he'll own that opportunity. After talking to David out there, it was a very hot deal, so I'll put the probability at 90% here. We're pretty sure we're going to close it. Pretty large deal at $20,000. Then we'll just be able to set some reminders to ourselves to be able to follow up. So we don't want to lose this opportunity in the shuffle of things or in emails. So let's say we're going to follow up. We're going to try to follow up on Monday. I'm sorry, we'll push out our end date to the end of the month. And we want to follow up on Monday here. And we're going to say, you know, this came from the website. And our sales cycle here, we've got a pretty basic sales cycle going on. We could have very complex cycles, easy ones. We can do all of that. So, you know, a lot of this information can be tailored to the nature of the business. Our bicycle company, we don't have a whole lot of steps to it here. So I'll save that, and that's going to get this opportunity in my system to be able to start tracking through that whole process. Now, I need to go out and get my outside rep involved, and he's traveling and all over the place all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at his calendar here. So I'll pop into my calendar and pull up Jack's calendar as well. Okay, so perfect. Jack is free on Monday, and the customer wished to set up an appointment on Monday as well. We'll back up a little bit here, so I can pop back into the Cavalier Bike Shop, and I'm going to go ahead and create an appointment for Jack. So what this is going to do is this is going to notify Jack that he needs to go out and meet with Cavalier Bike here. And we'll link this to Cavalier Bike Shop. And we could put some additional remarks, and if we needed to tell David about anything else that he needed to do out there at the customer, I'm sorry, Jack, as he's speaking with David. Okay, so I'm going to take just a moment, and we're actually going to sort of change roles and put on a different hat now. So Corey has done his job as the inside person, reached out, contacted the customer, collected the information, all within the new ERP system, and utilizing workflow, we're able to notify other folks within the organization of actions that they need to take. So I'm going to close my VM here for just a second.
What Dave's doing here is getting his iPhone paired up with his laptop, and we're going to show you what this looks like from the mobile device. While he's restarting Reflector, let me jump in and say what we're showing today is it's one element of what we can do, and Dave's sort of showing the sales process. But Macola is more than just a sales tool and tracking of opportunities and customers, right? I mean, it's a manufacturing tool, distribution tool. If you create or sell anything, whether it be concrete, metal, household goods, food and beverage, those are the types of customers that work really well with our software. So that's the kind of thing that we've been doing for over 40 years. And you know, there's not a manufacturing problem that we haven't seen and solved in the last 40 years. So Dave, it looks like you're back up here.
Yep, we're perfect. That's one of the perils of having multiple wireless networks. Sometimes your phone likes to jump from one to the other. But promise we didn't set up the filler there. That was just some good paraphrasing. So now to tie this together some more, I'm in the Jack McBean role here. So I'm our account manager that's out responsible for visiting with customers. So Corey's done the legwork on the inside, again, coming from the business automation and utilizing the workflows to track everything as we go through. So Jack here is going to be able to pull up his calendar and going to be able to see that meeting that he's got on the 18th that Corey scheduled for him. And from there, I can drill down in and get some additional information about that appointment. Now, Jack maybe hasn't been able to have a discussion yet with this customer, but because of the communication via the workflows, we're going to be able to see and pull in a lot of information. So I can now drill down from here into the account that was created for the Cavalier Bike Shop. And maybe I want to do a little bit of snooping beforehand. So if I wish, I can even go out and, if that account has a Twitter account, I can go out and pull that in. And maybe I want to learn a little bit more about the contacts as well. So I know I'm going to meet with David, so I'm going to drill down into the contacts, pull up David here, and I can see his phone number. So if I want, I can go ahead and give him a quick call and make sure that time works for him. Or I can initiate an email for him right here. And again, down at that contact level, I can see all the David Dozer Twitter accounts as well. So I can link that up, start tying the social aspect of things into the CRM system and do a little snooping perhaps before I go out and talk to David. Now the great thing is too, because I've got all this information in one centralized place, I can see any requests that are tied to this. And if I go out and look at opportunities, I can see on my mobile device here the opportunity that Corey put in as well. So I can pull that in and get some additional information about that opportunity and update this while I'm on the go. So let's say I go out and it's next Monday. I need to find the account. So I'd pull up the Cavalier Bike Shop here again, and we'll see they've got their address in here. So I can just click on that. And again, using the mobility in the CRM system here, I can pull that address up and go ahead and map and get directions to it as well and see how long it's going to take me to get there. So again, information at the fingertips is what a lot of this is about. Instead of having to call, write things down on paper, exchange emails back and forth, it's all right here and accessible to me at any time. So let's take this a step further. So now I'm Jack, and I've gone out and I've had a conversation with David out there, and they're super excited about the job and want to do some more with us, and they definitely want to get a quote from us. So I can actually come in then, and through the automated workflows, I can go ahead and create a new workflow to tell Corey that I need some stuff done here. So I'm going to go out and I'm just going to create a task. And put some remarks in there. Let's see. I'm just going to tell Corey that I want him to send some information over to David. So then I'll just go ahead and set that task for Corey. And see, again, one of the big advantages of having everything in one place is we're not jumping back and forth between different systems, or I'm not trying to send a quick email from my phone. I know it's something everyone's going to be able to see and follow up on at any time. And there's lots of additional information I could pull in here, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And it tells me if I'm being dumb and forget something in there. So see, it's smarter than I am. Okay, so we've sent that task over. So now we're going to hop out of the mobile device here. And we're going to jump back into our role as Corey and the inside person. So from my workspace, now in this case I don't see my task right there, but I can drill down a little bit deeper and go into my workflow, which again is we're utilizing lots of these automated workflows. We're going to see a lot of different things happen and be able to act on those things. So that task has happened, so I can pull that up, see that I got that information from Jack, and then I need to follow up with that and send something out to David at Cavalier. So now this is where some other pieces of the CRM system really come into play and pulling all that information together. So from my Outlook, I can create a new email, and I'm going to send that over. So you requested. So what I can do with all the integration points with the CRM and the workflows, I can come out and just say I want to add an attachment. Now this isn't looking out on my desktop, this is looking into our ERP system, and I'm able to pull attachments out there that are managed and part of that system as opposed to just free floating around. So again, eliminating some of those silos of data that we were looking at in the earlier PowerPoints. So I can pull in that attachment, pulls that attachment right in. Also, if I wish at the same time, I can go ahead and save this out as I'm sending it as well. So what this is going to allow me to do is start aggregating that data within the ERP system. So when I pull up that account and I'm doing CRM, all of that's sort of coming together in one place.
That email is saved not just on the person's laptop, but actually saved inside of Synergy as part of Macola 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's automatically putting a document up there and attaching it to the card all at one time. So within that CRM system, we're going to see all that linked up. So we're not jumping back and forth between multiple places. Move back out of this guide. I'm not actually going to send it to myself there. Now, the really cool part of that too is on the incoming side, the same sort of action can happen within the ERP system as well. So let's say, for instance, then I get that information back from David, and he says, oh, "Okay, great. We love the spec. Here's our specifications for the project that we want to do." So we can go out, and now this time we can actually save this out into the document management system. And there's some really great functions in there as well through the CRM part of the application where I don't have to go out and select information or do all this additional things. You know, because it knows this email is from David at this email address, I can just go ahead and save that. What that's going to do for me is go out and find that in the CRM system and automatically link that all together. So now when I come back up, I can drill back down into my, my Cavalier bike shop here. And we'll see as everything starts to come together in one holistic view, I can drill down into my documents and then uploaded that specification sheet automatically and tied it there because it recognized that those email addresses tied together and I'm not having to duplicate efforts and it's just making everything flow very easily all within the umbrella of one piece. So I'll pop back here to my workspace, and now let's say, for instance, you know, Cavalier Bike Shop has signed off and said, yes, great, we want to buy. So I want to go ahead and get a quote into the system for those guys. And let's say, oh, man, I see I don't have my shortcut for adding a new quote here. So that's a super easy thing to do. You can just come in, pop down, and just bam, I'm entering a new quote there. So again, all this is tying back together. I pull in Cavalier. And again, we'll go through all the nuts and bolts of putting data in. We're seeing now this is getting to the point where traditionally quoting and orders would start flowing into a different system, kind of outside of CRM even. So I can save that off. And where the workspaces come into play as well is as we're going through these different pieces, we take that functionality outside of just the dashboards and workspaces there. And you can even create configurable menus down at a transactional level as well. So what that lets you do is through the course of everything, really see all the pieces that are coming together and have the ability to get to any area of the system through that workspace technology that really acts to tie everything together. Now, I know I'm running a little short on time here and got through a lot of the points that I wanted to hit, but to kind of wrap up the CRM aspect of it as well, I want to take a quick look at what I consider a mature account that has more data tied to it as well, and again, removing those silos of data. So existing account with lots of context tied to it, lots of things have gone on with this account. So even, for instance, I could drill down and look at all the orders that are tied to this, anything that's open, anything that's historical. So, and really the key part here is how everything links together. So let's say, for instance, they call up and say, hey, do you know what's going on with my order? Well, I can drill down into it and get down to that line item. And I can see that from there, there's actually a production order tied to that. So maybe I need to follow up and see, oh, shoot, there's a production order tied to that. So we need to see what's going on with it. So I can trail all the way through to view that production order and say, oh, no, it's been released, but it looks like they haven't actually started production on that yet. So we're taking it all the way really from a CRM perspective into the back office pieces, shop floor, and seeing everything as it happens in a real-time type of way. So with that, I think that's pretty close to my allotted time there. Apologize if some of it was a little rushed, and I had a couple technical glitches here and there, but that's par for the course, I think, sometimes. But I don't know if you guys had anything you wanted to add. Again, wanted to tell that story really around the workspaces, CRM, and workflow, and it's more than just modules, really concepts that tie core ERP all together.
All right. Thank you very much, Dave. I think that was a good demo. I think it's really hard in a webinar like this, inside of about 20 minutes, to show a holistic picture of any ERP system. Today, we're talking specifically about Macola 10, but any ERP system is really hard to show in that short amount of time. So just to kind of reiterate, you were trying to show some high-level sales processes, but our product goes way beyond that into deep manufacturing, shop floor or POP, distribution, all kinds of elements that you would have in a manufacturing or distribution environment. Before we leave here, I want to talk just quickly about the elements that make up Macola 10. To build off of what I was just saying, we have manufacturing, project management, distribution, quality, accounting, HR, and CRM. And these 7 elements that make up the spokes of this wheel are really the 7 key foundational pieces of the Macola product line. So as we wrap this up, and we'll get to some Q&A here, we've left about 10 or 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Just to wrap up, the 3 that we talked about today were CRM, and that's getting all of your customer information in one place. We talked a little bit about workflows and the power of automation, and based on the poll that we did, that's where you guys see a huge amount of benefit to automate a process, to take out the human element and put in that 24/7 employee called automation. And finally, Dave showed you some workspaces. Boy, if you've been around Macola for the last couple of years, as we have, we've made such progress there in the ability to easily configure workspaces and make those what you want them to be. So we've made huge strides there in the last year or so, and that's really to build out that personalized and actionable dashboards. Of course, you can also streamline your operations and manage your business functions, but ultimately, with any ERP system, the goal should be to make your business more efficient and more profitable, right? We want to take out the errors and we want to increase the profits. So that's our goal with any ERP system, and of course, our mission here is to make Macola 10 be the best that it can be. So we'll take some Q&A. I certainly want you guys to have a takeaway from this webinar, and that is to visit Macola.com. We've got a ton of customer success stories out there. We've got a team here now that's working on videos and some absolutely fantastic sort of explanatory videos around Macola 10 that you can watch and see what Macola is and what it can do for you. We'll also be sending out a follow-up email from this webinar and a survey as well to just see what parts you found valuable and any ideas you might have for making this better in the future. So let's open it up for Q&A. I've seen a lot of questions coming into the chat window here.
I think like the first one is a question, is a recording going to be made available? And yes, we'll put a link in an email that will be sending to you, and within 24 to 48 hours, we'll make a link available that you can actually go and watch the video, or if you need to forward it to someone, you'll be able to do that as well. So good question on that. One of the questions from the beginning was actually from the poll, not really a question, more of a comment I found funny, is what type of ERP do you have? Old, new, or what type? Someone said, well, where's antique ERP?
Yeah, there's definitely some antique systems floating around out there. I off of the Q&A list here, I popped a couple of those into your queue, Dave. Do you see those coming up on your side?
Yeah, I've got a few coming through here. Let's see. Let's pick, sorry, there's a lot of them here. So one of them here, it's kind of getting specific. So some of these we might save and follow up and answer specifically to the person asking them. But one of them asked, for the home page, can you use a widget to display the core ERP module? And the answer there is yes, that is a widget that can be added to the home page to be able to display that piece of the application right there from the workspace for a little bit of ease of use. There's also some other questions here. Also for emailing, I know you have a widget for Outlook, but when you send an email, it can be copied to Synergy, but then the response comes back to Outlook. And if we respond, then we have to recopy. You guys connected or syncing to Gmail or plan to do so in the future. So as part of the demo there, we did take a look at the integration to Outlook. There are plans on the horizon to be integrating with other mail providers as well, potentially Gmail being probably the front runner of one of those. So that's one of the things that is on the horizon for the product. Oh, shoot. Hey,
Dave, I'll take one off of my queue here while you're looking for a couple others that you want to pick off the stack. I've got a couple of questions popping into mind here about the interface. One of the questions is, has the interface been completely redesigned since the previous versions? And the answer to that is sort of a yes and no kind of question. The interface has been redesigned significantly. I think the workspaces in particular are looking much, much better in 10.4, which released just a couple of days ago on June 30th. And then we continue to make huge strides in the web front end. For those of you who've been around Macola for a few years, you know that we've undertaken a project to create web services and APIs. And be completely web-based. And so our web screens are getting better. And, we're on 10.4 now, and this product is getting more and more mature. And one of the things that we have on our short list is working with usability and the look and the feel of the product. And so we're actually working with a design firm now to really focus on, ERP software doesn't need to be ugly. It can be beautiful. And so we're putting a lot of effort and a lot of focus into the look and the feel of the product. So I'll let you do another one, and I'll take another one off my queue.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 here queued up. Good to go. So one question came in is, what are the benefits of 10 in the accounting area? So I won't delve into all the specifics about that, but there's a lot of really great feature functionality, specifically in the accounting modules in the Macola 10 package. A lot of that being a lot of automation. The month-end process is much simpler than a lot of other packages that I've worked with in the past. Very easy. You can get it down to a one evening thing as opposed to shutting down for a couple days to try to get all the month-end processes done. And there's the ability to really drill down quite a bit and find all the data that you want to. So as opposed to running a lot of different reports and trying to match things up, and we have things called card views, and it's very easy and accessible and sliceable and diceable and can all be exported. And I think it's kind of an accountant's dream in some places. So if you want to take another one.
Sure, I'll take one off of my queue here. One of the questions is about upgrading from older versions of Macola. Specifically, this person's asking about Macola 9.6 and bringing it to Macola 10, and can they upgrade? The answer to that is of course. Yes, we would love to have you upgrade, whether you're on version 7, which we call progression, or if you're on ES, which is currently at 9.6 something. We'd love to have you move your system over to Macola 10, so we're happy to follow up with you on that. There's actually some really interesting options that you can explore as far as upgrading goes, and how you would like to set that up. So we have subscriptions and all sorts of ways to do that. So yeah, we're happy to have a discussion with you.
Okay, great. I'll jump in and answer this one here. The question is, what are the HR management tools for like time and attendance, set up rules for time clocking in and out and absenteeism? Are we able to load schedules and track attendance against those schedules? And then what about the tracking of applications and hiring process and training and career development and things along those nature? Obviously, we didn't touch on those points in the webinar today. However, the HRM module does include most of those features. So from everything from the hiring process and getting a new hire in to onboarding them to doing reviews, tracking training and certifications, and even doing some training through the system as well is all available within Macola 10 there.
All right, I see that my last answer triggered 3 or 4 people to ask the same follow-up question. So let me go back to the last answer. We were talking about upgrading. I see several people on the line indicated, what's that process look like? Is it a completely new system? Is it included in yearly updates? So lots of follow-up questions along those veins. It is a pretty big leap to go from progression to EM10. So there's a lot that has to happen there, and typically some sort of services are usually needed to get some data into the right form. It's not something that's included with your updates. This is a pretty big upgrade as opposed to an update. Yeah, but I think that a lot of our progression customers, we've got well, gosh, I don't know how many hundreds now that have gone from progression to Macola 10 who have taken that leap, and we've got that down to a pretty good science now. Another one that popped in my queue here that it's funny because this comes up so often is about AS import, and this again is a question that if you're on the call, if you haven't used Macola in the past, this question probably won't affect you, but for those of you on the call who maybe have used it in the past and are wondering about this synchronization utility that we had called AS import, what is the current status of it? The answer is that it's almost gone. Through web services, we eliminate the need for AS import, and so we don't really want this call to be about architecture, but essentially a web service removes the need for syncing anything because the web service keeps databases always in alignment. So there's very, very few times now where AS import is required. It's not 100% eliminated. I would say it's 99.5% eliminated from the Macola system with the latest release, which was 10.4. All right, that took a couple off my queue. You have any others over there, Dave?
Okay, yeah, I've got an easy one here. Can you email invoices directly from Macola? And the answer is yes, that is possible. So sorry to grab an easy one there for you, or away. So
yeah, let me see what else I've got on my list here. Hey, look, somebody's agreeing. AS import is a pain. We know it's a pain. We're working on it. We're working on it and getting it out there as soon as possible. Someone's asking. Actually, I see at least 2, if not 3, folks asking about HR and what we do with HR. I saw a question that flashed up a few minutes ago, and I'm pretty deep into the list now. But there was one about tracking hours. In HR, I see some others asking about demos with HR. So I don't know. Maybe that's a good one for you, Dave. Do you want to talk a little bit about some partner products that we have that can track hours and that sort of thing, as well as what Synergy can do with HR?
It definitely depends on what you're looking for. There's a lot of deep functionality in the HR module as far as time and attendance, things of those nature, vacation time off, all of that. And then if you're talking about labor tracking, like on a shop floor, we do have some partner products. I don't know if we necessarily want to call out specific partners on this call, but there are
that can do shop floor time management, but even just built into Synergy, you can do anything from the easy stuff like vacation days all the way down to a personal dossier. So if Dave were my employee, maybe we store all of his employment docs in his dossier inside of Synergy, and that's only for his view and his manager's view, and then that could be set up for every employee. In fact, that's how we do it at Exact, because we use this system internally as well.
And I know we're running a little short on time here, but there's one that popped into my queue here that I kind of want to make sure we got to, and it says, can we build a quotation with a BOM, estimated times, et cetera, and then turn that into an order? There is a quoting and estimating module that can be utilized to do just that, where without having to go through and basically set up a fake BOM that looks like a real item to get accurate information out of. The quoting and estimating can be utilized to kind of mock all that up and then convert that into both real items and a quotation, or I guess a quotation first and then a real item.
Excellent. Well, so we've got the really fantastic problem of having an enormous amount of questions that have come in. What I'd like to do is let's go ahead and wrap up the webinar. The software that we use actually helps us track who asked what, and we can use email to get back with people. I think these questions are really good and show that people were really paying attention. I see I saw one here about moving from QuickBooks and Zoho to a Macola system. I've seen questions about accounting and manufacturing and how we plug into Outlook and how we plug into a Google ecosystem. So all kinds of really, really great questions that we can't probably answer on the phone, but I would love to get back with people individually and follow up with those. Just to remind you guys, on that last slide, Macola.com is our web address. You can find all kinds of videos, things that you might want to learn about what we're doing at Macola, as well as success stories, which I personally love, those customer success story videos. Nick, do you have anything you want to wrap it up with here?
No, I think that's good. Dan, Dave, appreciate you walking us through and talking about these 3 reasons. And everyone, I just want to thank you for your time. We know it's valuable. We really appreciate you spending it with us. If you have any other questions, you can send it to me or contact your representative.
Or we have a survey going out after this webinar, right?
And after the webinar, we would really appreciate it if you could give us some feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how we did, what you found valuable, any ways we can improve. So let us know if there's something you'd like us to reach out to you about through the survey. Again, thanks for your time. We'll be sending you a follow-up email with a link to the recording, but we appreciate you spending your afternoon with us. And on behalf of Macola, thank you. We appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for dialing in, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.